So in number 2, we can see that it starts with it. So that is another dummy pronoun because it's not referring to or taking the place of any noun. We don't have a framing phrase, so we want to edit it in a way where we're still saying the same thing here, but where we are avoiding the dummy pronoun. Now, the best way to approach this is to think about what is the action that's happening and who or what is doing the action. We're going to be talking about our objective, which is something that you want. So instead of saying it is my objective, we can think about who is doing it and what is it that they are doing. In other words, what is the real subject and what is the real verb? And we can just say, I want to, right? Much clearer. Now we want to use simple direct word choices. That's guideline number 6. And so instead of utilize, which is kind of an unnecessarily complicated word, we can say something like, I want to use. Now, here we have what I think are filler words. They're a way of emphasizing, okay, I really want to use my university education. I want to use my education the most fully that I can. But we have to ask ourselves whether it's really adding to the meaning or whether it's just taking up space. Now, for me, in this case, I would suggest taking this out. And we don't need both. And now think about this. My university educational experience. Well, again, we're using the most indirect way here of explaining this idea as possible. So instead, we can just say, I want to use my university education and my skills as an editor. Well, we can maybe make that a little bit clearer, a little bit more concise, and just say, and my editing skills. Again, preferably is a little bit of a filler word, doesn't really add much. In a full-time, now if you have a position with a company, we know that you mean it's an employment position, right? That it's a job. So we can take out employment, and we end up with a sentence that looks like this. I want to use my university education and my editing skills in a full-time position with your firm. Again, it's about half the length, and it is much, much clearer and much more direct. I just want to say again, if your sentence looks different than this, that doesn't mean that it's wrong, because your editing, the way that you edit, is of course going to be a little bit different. There's no single right answer. The main thing is we want to see that your sentence is clearer, more direct, and more concise. Now, let's take a look at number 3. There was an attempt by the Prime Minister to interfere in the habitual functioning of Parliament, but this was followed by a huge amount of complaint on the part of many Canadians. So yet again, we have a dummy pronoun starting off our sentence. There was an attempt by the Prime Minister. And as I've already said, when we have a weird construction in our sentence like this, and we're using dummy pronouns and we want to edit them out, what we really want to think about is what is the action that's happening? And we should make that an action verb. And who is doing the action, or what is doing the action? And we should make that the subject of the verb. So the action is an attempt, or it's an interference, and the person is the Prime Minister. So we can very simply say the Prime Minister, we'll use an action verb here and say the Prime Minister interfered in the habitual functioning of Parliament. Now, functioning just means the happenings, the goings on, the role of Parliament. And habitual just means the day-to-day, the normal everyday stuff. Now, if we take this out, the reader is going to know what we mean very precisely without this habitual functioning. So we can just say the Prime Minister interfered in Parliament, but, and again, look, here we have yet another dummy pronoun. This, I guess, is referring to the interference by the Prime Minister, but it's a little bit unclear. And again, the best thing for us to do is try to think about what is the action and who is doing the action. And in this case, the action is complaint, or in the verb form, to complain. And the people doing the action are Canadians, or many Canadians. So we can say something like this. The Prime Minister interfered in Parliament, but many Canadians complained. And again, you may have done it a little bit differently. The sentence won't necessarily look exactly the same, but we can see how much clearer this is. We can see how much more direct it is, and how it's communicating that same idea, but it's doing it better and in a shorter form. So, all right, I've got time to do one more. So let's do one more. In contemporary society, violence, crime, and violent crime are huge problems in today's society. Now, in this case, there's really one of our guidelines that is going to help us the most, and that is the one that's all about repetition. Notice that we've got society, violence, crime, and violent crime. We have contemporary society and today's society, and that's a repetition. And so we can simplify this and maybe just say something like this. Violence and crime are huge problems in today's society, and we've gotten rid of that repetition. So, I have to limit these to 10 minutes or I won't be able to upload them, so I'm going to stop there. But if you have any questions at all about the homework, about concise writing, or about any other part of our class, please don't be afraid to contact me. I really think that this concise writing editing approach will help you quite a bit with the summary, because the summary especially needs to be very condensed, very efficient in terms of including all the necessary information. And in general, concise writing is a great way to improve our writing, to edit our writing, and make it more effective. All right, everybody, I'm going to end this here, and I will upload both of these parts of the video. If you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of me. Thank you.